Today, you are going to be hearing from an incredible entrepreneur. Her name is Bec Cuzillo, and I absolutely loved our conversation. This conversation was really important. We talked about launching and the power of launching and the power of having systems when you do launch and the power of not launching the same different programs every single time and the power of launching the same program and having signature programs for launch. She talks about her incredible, insane launch strategy, which was so fascinating to hear about, and how easy it's been for her to launch now. And just, she works 10 hours a week. So if you can meet someone who is so successful in their business, only works 10 hours a week, and has this incredible launch strategy, I really cannot wait to share this interview with you guys and have you listen to it. And there are gems throughout the whole freaking episode. So make sure you get comfy and get on a chair or whatever you're doing and get ready for this episode. So a little bit about Bec. So Bec Cuzillo is a spiritual business coach for spiritual women who want to build abundant, heart-led, sustainable businesses that truly set their souls on fire. Through her group coaching and mastermind programs, Bec's mission is to support women to claim their worth, master their mindset, and to step into the highest vision for their life and business. Her approach combines soulful business strategy with mindset, energetics, and fully embodied feminine spirituality to ensure you walk away with the practical and intuitive tools and strategies to build a life and business that you love. How beautiful, right? So get ready and strap in for Bec Cuzillo. Welcome, visionaries and revolutionaries, to the Aligned Empire Podcast, your gateway to building a movement of change, wealth, and impact. I'm your host, Drea Brown. This podcast is for the visionary woman who is ready to master the energetic frequencies of money, business, and herself, and is ready to expand into a frequency, life, and empire that mirrors her highest purpose. Together, we are rising up and reshaping the world as we know it, defying limitations and boldly embodying our highest selves. You're not just listening to another podcast. You're embarking on an epic journey. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm so excited to be sitting here with an amazing, amazing, amazing person, Bec Cuzillo. Hello, and welcome to the podcast, Bec.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for this today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always start with this question because it's such an amazing question to really get to know who we're talking to and what you're about and really how you came to this journey, because everything is so connected. So, Bec, how did you get to where you are today?
Oh, it's been a journey. I started my business over 7 years ago now, and I first started as a candle maker, would you believe, which sounds so wild, because now I'm here as a business coach. I was trained initially as a Reiki healer, and so my candles were always kind of infused with healing energy, and it was very much always had the spiritual side of things be as a part of the business. And so I kind of started off in this product-based, handmade business, which I really loved. At the time, it was just a creative outlet for me that I wanted to do something fun outside of my day job. And it kind of snowballed from there. I released a goddess candle, which sounds unrelated, but it is. And to celebrate that, I ran a goddess workshop. So it was a transformation workshop for women. And I came out of that experience and I was like, oh, yeah, this is it, And so I kind of fell into this work of doing transformation empowerment work with women. Really loved that. And when I decided to leave my day job and go full time in my business, that's when I trained as a life coach. And so I worked as a spiritual life coach for a little while. But because I've kind of been immersed in the spiritual community ever since I was young, my mum's a psychic medium, a professional psychic medium. I had a lot of people in my community who were spiritual business owners. And what happens and what I find really interesting when you do a lot of, personal development work is you come through the other side of that and you're like, wow, actually, I want to help other people do this work. And so I had clients who were working with me who were going, well, I'm going to go train as a Reiki healer, or I'm going to go train as a life coach myself, and come out the other side and go, hey, Bec, you've built a business. How do I build my business? And so I kind of fell into this work, and during COVID and right after my first son was born, I kind of went all in on the business coaching side of things. And I initially ran a program to help my community bring their businesses online. And so when COVID hit, I did that, and then just kind of built out my business model from there. And so now I run group programs and masterminds and support my clients to build abundant, profitable, sustainable businesses that they love. And it is just the joy of my life.
That's amazing. I love how everything has totally fell into place for you, that it wasn't like, this is my goal and this is what I want to do. I want to build a business, or, you know, it's a side. It went from a side hustle to doing the business, and then people kept coming to you. And I think that's such a beautiful, wonderful way to build a business.
It is. And, you know, if you told me 7 years ago, this is what you're going to be doing in 7 years' time, I would have been like, what are you on about? Like, absolutely not.
Yeah. Was it just a totally different, are you talking about when you started the candle business?
Yeah. I didn't have any intention for that, actually. I was also studying interior design on the side, which was also a bit of a creative outlet. I used to work in the community sector, and so we were working on quite heavy youth issues, youth justice, homelessness, you know, things like that, I was like, I need an outlet here. And I just had no intention, I suppose, of being an entrepreneur. And what I realized very quickly is that lifestyle and what it allows you to do is just exactly what I wanted. And so it's been a really beautiful kind of unfolding and a journey that, you know, I'm so grateful for.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it sounds like creativity is really, really important to you, obviously. And so,
It is. It is. You know, it's interesting. As a kid, I grew up not being particularly, or not thinking of myself as particularly creative. And it's something that I've healed within myself for sure over, you know, the years. And, you know, now it's such a big part of me, but I still have that like little kid inside me that's like, no, I'm not creative, you know?
Of course. Yeah. What ways do you find yourself being creative in your business now?
I think now I view creativity with a much wider lens around what that kind of looks like. So I get to have the kind of creative control that we think, you know, around, or like that we typically think creativity is, you know, like design and art and stuff like that. So, you know, getting to play with photo shoots and designs and things like that in the business in that kind of way. But also, I really love creative problem solving. And I think that's probably why I love being a business coach, because I kind of view everything as a problem to be solved, and like, how can we solve this in a way that feels really good for you and do it in a way that feels really aligned, and kind of get creative around what solutions we can come up with. I love that. And actually, something I learned in my interior design course was that there are always so many solutions to a problem. And, you know, however many of us were in the class would get the same assignment with the same floor plan, and we would create something completely different. And I always thought that was just so fascinating, that you've got the same parameters and you get a completely different result. And so I've kind of brought that with me in the way that I approach business for myself, but also supporting my clients.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so 2020 happened, right? And then you had a son, or you had a son before that?
Before that, yeah. So he was born in July 2019.
Okay. And then, because a big foundation of your business is being able to only work 10 hours a week.
Yes.
And so how are you able to do that?
So that's my reality right now. So at the time when he was born, it was similar. And then I've also got a 1-year-old now. And so the time I've got in between that, I had probably 18 months or 2 years where I had a little bit more time. And so when we put my eldest into daycare and things like that. I got a little bit of that time back, which was, really nice. But what's so interesting is I wasn't necessarily doing a whole lot more at that time. I feel like we always just fill the time we have with the things we've got to do. The way that I do that, though, is I have support. So I don't run my business on my own. And actually, it was after my first was born when I first kind of brought team on and was like, okay, if I really want to build my business in this season of life, I've got to have some support here. And so I have a content manager and I have a VA at the moment. And I've had that set up for the last almost 2 years now, I think. Someone's going to correct me on that timeline, but that's fine. I've had it for a while and I really, really love them. And so that's been working really well. So I suppose the key thing is support. And I've also had the same business coach now for 4 years. And so we've been working together through that whole season, so she was with me on that journey of, okay, well, what does my business look like now post baby? And that was really, really helpful. I had kind of worked on and off with business coaches prior, but never had kind of gone and committed fully and gone all in on having, a coach over, in an ongoing way. And so that's been really helpful. So like support on all sides essentially is like the absolute key. And then setting up your business to actually support that too. I don't have lots of one-to-one calls because I just don't have the time to have one-to-one calls. Maybe at some point in my business I will, and that'd be really nice. But at the moment, I don't. And so that's why I work predominantly through group programs and masterminds, because I was like, well, I've got to maximize my time. I've got to leverage my time here. And if I want to be able to support people, I've got to do that in a way that works for me and works for them. And so I do group coaching calls and mastermind calls, and I have one-to-one support for my masterminders, but that's message support. And so I do that in and around, life. I'll be sitting there breastfeeding and messaging my clients sometimes. And that's really nice. And obviously that's not something that everyone would choose to do, but I really love it. And so I've just set it up in a way that works for me. And so it's kind of like, what support do you need? What setup do you need? What does the business need to look like? And go from there. You need those foundations first and foremost before it's possible to just go, okay, I'm going to make money and only work 10 hours a week.
Absolutely. And it's so good because I'm about to have my child in 3 weeks from now. Yeah. And so it's so good to hear that I can breastfeed and I can also work at the same time. So, and then also, I mean, when you put in your application and I saw what type of the topics that you wanted to talk about, I was like, this is so applicable to me about building a business for every season of your life and not waiting until shit hits the fan, or not waiting until something until you actually really, really need it, until it's too late. And because did you have those systems set up before you actually implemented it? Did you have any systems, or was it just like, okay, this is actually really important. I realize the importance of this and now I'm going to do it?
Yeah. So I went into my first mat leave with my eldest with nothing really organized. And so the second time round's been very different. So I was way more planned around, what it was going to look like post baby. And I think too, there was probably a really good element of that because I didn't have any expectations going in the first time round. I was just very intentional around I don't know what my time's going to look like. And so I didn't have much of a plan going into that and kind of just went, we'll see how it goes. And then we were very fortunate. My eldest was a very good sleeper and, kind of like clockwork, was in a routine on his own without us doing anything really. And so I was able to return to work fairly early considering. And that was when I went, okay, well, what does it look like now? So I had this real opportunity. I kind of think of my business as like pre-Noah and post-Noah because they're very different seasons of my business. Whereas this second time round, I had everything set up. I knew that I was going to come back to the mastermind 2 months after, my son was born. And so I had all of those things set up in the back end. I remember when I brought on my first team member in early 2020, I was like, so we don't really have any processes recorded. And so I'd really like that to be something that we work on together. But also I've decided we're launching something and we're launching it like next week.
That's amazing.
So sorry about that. And so we was kind of like a baptism by fire for that incredible human who still works with me today. She's now my content manager, which is amazing.
So you didn't scare her off?
No, I didn't scare her off. Luckily, because she's great. And yeah, so, for me, it wasn't set up, and it was an entirely different experience this second time round, which has been really nice because my youngest does not sleep so well. And so we've kind of been in this season of actually the business really supports me now because it is set up in a way, and I know it's set up in a way that can kind of thrive no matter what's going on in my personal life. If I've had a terrible night's sleep, which is regularly, I can still show up, serve my clients, and know that my clients are being served because of the support I've got and the systems we've got and the processes we've now got recorded and, streamlined and automated and everything like that.
So what have been some of the most important systems that you guys set up so you are able to fall to the what is that quote? It's you fall to the something of your systems, like you fall to the I know you know
I
that
can't remember
quote. What
either.
is that?
I do know what you mean.
You fall to the basically the foundation of your system. So what systems have been the most paramount to your success and able to let's get up with no sleep and still rock and roll?
So I think one thing that's been really important for me has been being able to work primarily from my phone. And so I have all of our communication set up in that way. We use Google Docs. And so if, I've written something, my content manager, works their magic and then sends it back to me, I'm able to review that when I'm on the run or when I'm breastfeeding or whatever. And so we've kind of got that in place. Which has been really, as a foundation, really important because I know a lot of people go, I don't want to work from my phone. And so they don't have any of that stuff set up, which is totally fine. And in a different season of life, that's going to make so much sense, right? To have those boundaries. But for me, I'm like, no, I need all of this to be accessible from right here, wherever I am. So that's been key. And then in terms of other systems in the business, the big one really is our clients being served and what that looks like. And so, onboarding, automating all of that. We have, a Slack group for our programs. And so, all of that happens without me necessarily doing stuff. And so we've kind of got this really great system of, what that looks like, what that's set up, how it's scheduled in, all of the above. And then launching has been the other one. And, launching in a way that isn't hugely taxing on my energy. So for example, we have long launches now. We once upon a time, we might have launched for 2 to 3 weeks. Now we often have our cart open for 4, 5, 6 weeks and give people that opportunity to, get to know what the program is, for example, and have those conversations with me. But it's really for me to be able to show up and to sell and to know that I've got the spaciousness in that. And so, we've really shaped the systems around, okay, well, what does this look like? All the processes around what does this look like at the moment for us in this season.
Amazing. And as far as your launches go, do you guys use templates or do you have a very systematized launch process where you know basically what you're going to do, maybe a little bit different stories in Instagram, or do you have a process set up?
Yeah, so we do. We have we use as a project management tool Asana, and we have everything in there. So it's a matter of duplicating that and then just essentially plugging and playing. And so I will often do, we'll have a chat and be like, okay, well, what's the pre-launch going to look like? What's our content going to be kind of themed around, etc. I'll often do a launch event, and so have some kind of free masterclass or workshop or challenge or something like that kind of just kicks everything off and feels really fun. And so I, at the moment, often will do that as a masterclass because showing up once for an hour is easier than showing up, 3 or 5 days in a row for a short period of time. And so we'll set all of that up. And then in terms of our open cart and what goes out during that, we have this huge long Google Doc of launch emails that we will repurpose stuff, we'll pull stuff over from the podcast, we'll have a look at, okay, well, what did we talk about last time? What can we talk about this time? And then I'll jump into my content manager's, messages and be like, okay, so this literally just happened to me. And I think this would be a really great story that we could share in an email next week. What do you think? And she'll help me, pull that together and all of that. And so it's kind of a real mix of like stuff that's happening right now versus like, okay, what are we pulling across and repurposing and all of that. So it's very streamlined these days. We've done many launches together now. And it's, it's really, it's one of my favorite processes in the business, actually.
Oh my gosh. I wish everyone could say that, Bec, because it's like everyone dreads launches. Like, oh my gosh. So then you're the perfect person to talk to about this, about launching and how to make them easy and systematized. And I guess one question I would love to see is how many launches per year do you guys do? Are you guys always launching something, or is it quarterly? And then how long would you say each launch actually takes to implement?
That's a good question. So it has varied over the years as to how many times I've launched. This year, I will have launched 5 times when we come to the end of the year. I'm likely to launch, I know that I'll be launching 4 times next year, but I don't know whether we'll have something else in there. And I can't, I won't commit to anything because I'm probably likely to go, oh no, let's do a little launch here, of something new or fun or something like that. So yeah, we have 4 or 5 big launches. There was one year I did 7. I think 2021 I did 7 launches, which was huge. And so we've kind of cut back on that.
What was that taxing for you? Did it feel like a lot of work that year, or?
I think what felt like a lot of work was that I was building a lot of those programs out. And so they were new or relatively new. Maybe it was 2020 that was. Either way, there was one year where we launched 7 times, and I think, 3 or 4 of those programs were brand new. And so it wasn't just the launch. It was the launch in creating all of the assets, all of the messaging, and then running the program for the first time, which is always the biggest thing you'll ever do. And so, that's when you're creating all the curriculum and all the resources and working out whether it's working or not, or, changing things and tweaking things. The first time's always the biggest. So I suppose the biggest lesson there for me is that not to launch something once, because that's, you're never going to get that opportunity to refine it. And it's not necessarily going to be easier the next time if you're launching something totally different. So, we launched most of my programs. Well, that's not true. This year I did create something new for the first time in a little while. And so, that program, we went through that whole process, but it was actually really fun because it was kind of like the first time we went through that whole process a couple years into having this process really solid. And so we kind of got to test out if we're going to create something new, what does this look like? But it is a little bit more work. And so all of my programs are programs that I rinse and repeat. I've run my mastermind now 7 times. And this new program is going to become one of my signature ones. So we'll launch that again towards the end of this year. We'll be launching it twice next year. So, these are programs that we don't just do once. And I think that's where the ease comes from, And also, these are tested programs. They're tested like the messaging we've tested, the curriculum we've tested. Like, it's so much easier to sell something when you are so sold on it yourself, and when you've launched it before and you have seen the impact of it and you've seen the results from clients, you can be like, no, this is it. You should get in on this because I know how amazing it is because I've seen other people come through it and I love this program and you should be a part of it. That kind of energy is what you want to be bringing to a launch when you're selling. And so I suppose the biggest recommendation I have is to know that when you launch something the first time, it's always going to be a little bit more work, but then the next time and the next time after that, it gets easier and easier.
And so for these 4 launches that you have coming up for this next year, or the launches that you've done, I think you said 5 this year.
I will have done 5, yeah.
Have they have they mostly been rinse and repeat launches, or like are they your signature programs, or like next year are you running through 4 different programs, or is it going to be some of the same ones?
Yeah. So the 4 launches next year will be 2 programs. So there'll be 2 rounds of the same program. And so I just know that that's locked and loaded for next year. This year, I've had a little bit of a transition. So this year, I launched one of my signature programs at the start of the year. I've had 2 launches of my mastermind. And then in the middle of the year, I created a new program called Confident Consistent Cash. And so that program I launched for the first time in June, and then we're going to be launching again in November. And so they're the 5 launches. So this year's been a little bit different because I've kind of transitioned the model a little bit. But next year it will be that program and my mastermind that I launched twice.
Amazing. I could totally see why it's going to be so much easier not recreating the wheel and not relaunch. Like so many people I talk to, clients I talk to, they come to me and they're launch something brand new every single time. It's like, you guys, come on. You really can't. Oh man, I talk about burnout.
Yeah.
I'm sure when you first started this, like you learned I can't keep, during the seven program launch that one year, was it 7 new programs that you launched?
It wasn't. So what did I do? I did a new one, which was to help people move their business online. I launched a program that I'd already done previously, which I've kind of retired now. So that was a personal development program. And then I launched what has now become my Spiritual Business Academy. And so that's one of my signature offers still. And so I created that. So that was new. So 2 new, 1 old. And then I launched my mastermind for the first time. So that was new. So 3 new ones. And then I think we must have done another one of the Spiritual Business Academy. And I think I did another one of the previous program. So I can't remember exactly, but there were a few in there. And I think at least 3 of the 7 were brand new, which is wild.
You're just like, I'm just going to get all the shit out of the way this year.
It was a massive
year. I'm just going to go just focus.
Yeah. I totally overhauled my business. Everything was rebranded. It was just like this massive year of huge transformation. Which was amazing. It was also the year I, made the most money, the first year I scaled my business. It was the year that I finally felt like I got there, which is really cool.
It's amazing. Yeah. And with all those launches that you've been doing, have you had a quote unquote failed launch?
I wouldn't say in that time I've had a failed launch, because I've always had people sign up and I've always run them. I have had times where I haven't hit my goals. In fact, I often don't hit my launch goals, and that's totally fine because I love the stretch of that. And so I don't necessarily hold myself to that account all the time. I have had a failed launch. Actually, it wasn't long before that. I launched this offer. I created this very small offer that essentially it sounds so wild to me now. It was essentially me doing oracle card readings, and they were it was such a low cost offer. I launched it to my Facebook group at the time, and it was right after my son was born, I think. And I said, I put it out to my Facebook group. I made a few sales actually, but I had this moment where I was like, oh no, this is not aligned. This offer is not aligned. I literally had this gut moment of oh, definitely not for me. And so I had it up there for probably 12 hours, and then jumped into the Facebook group and I was like, hey everyone, I haven't launched this publicly and I'm not launching this publicly. I'm going to take this down, and this is why. And thank you to everyone who, I think I made 3 sales or something in that time. Thank you to everyone who's purchased. I'll honor that and I'll do these readings for you, but I am not going to continue this offer because it just isn't something that feels good for me. And I didn't realize that until I hit that publish button and went, oh no, what am I doing? Which is kind of hilarious, but a good learning, very good learning.
And good learning for your audience too. I think I love seeing that type of leadership where it's like, hey, you know what? I should not have posted this into my freaking group. I'm sorry, you guys. I don't know what I was thinking, and let it be a lesson for them too. It sounds like you really made it into that, which is why I'm sure you have such an engaged audience. Yeah. And so speaking of audience and speaking of social media and Facebook groups, where do you launch?
Oh.
Or like where are your main channels of launching?
So my email list is like the most important, kind of part of that, because that's where most eyes are on the content. So the email is our biggest one. Then Instagram is my other big channel that I'm on, all the time. And so that's where I'll have DM conversations with people. I'll be showing up on Instagram stories. We'll have our content going out. I'll be doing Instagram lives, and then the podcast as well. So the podcast will always have like some big chunky topics related to, the launch theme. And then what's really great about that is that next launch we'll probably be taking those, topics and creating them into emails for people in that launch, series of emails. So email, podcast, and Instagram would be the biggest. I'm also on Facebook, but I don't hang out there a lot. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Email, you guys. Email, email, email. I don't really still to this day, the data is there for email and people don't take it seriously or I mean, I think social media is so intoxicating in so many ways because people can see you on there, but email is kind of the sneaky marketing thing that I still a lot of some business owners utilize it, but I think you can always utilize it more every single day. If you're not really putting effort into building that list every single day, then like take a step back and ask why. Why not?
And if you are launching like regularly and consistently, like in between launches, focusing on that, like focusing on audience growth, focusing on your email list, that's going to help you set you up for the next time. Particularly if you're somebody who's launching, consistently. If you've got a launch model like me, having that, opportunity to consistently bring in new people is going to be really important, because there does come a time when you're like, okay, well, I need to get more people into my program. And it depends if it's a program that people can kind of continue on with you in. And I would really recommend thinking through like what's the next step for people after they do this program with you. So for example, I've had masterminders, work with me for years now, which is really powerful and amazing. And so what does the next step look like for people? And if they can continue on, that's obviously amazing. But if they can't, and it's like a one and done kind of course, you're going to need to have people in your audience who haven't purchased that before. And so thinking through what does the in between your launches look like, really important.
And so what does it look like for you?
So for me, that is one of the areas that I would really like to focus on moving forward, because it's not something I've necessarily prioritized a lot over the last couple of years. And that's definitely something that I've gone, okay, this is the priority at the moment. And so for me, that's guesting on podcasts and getting myself out there like this and saying, hey, love to connect with you. So make sure you come and connect with me. Please. So doing that and looking at, okay, well, what's the opportunity for audience growth in between? And so I'm kind of playing with the idea of whether that looks like running ads and promoting a freebie and doing that kind of thing, looking at what my funnel can look like, and getting people in at that top of funnel point. And so we haven't really landed on a strategy necessarily for that, but we're playing with a few ideas at the moment.
Are you guys mostly going to be doing a free lead magnet, or is it going to be more like a master class to funnel into your launch? Or
so I did run ads recently for a masterclass, and that worked really well. And so we're probably going to look at building out that, and so having probably a bit of a sequence of what that looks like. So doing a lead magnet, running ads to that, and then into the masterclass. That's probably where we'll end up, I am guessing. And the reason we haven't necessarily done that this year is because we just haven't had the time with, creating a new offer, me working 10 hours a week. It's like, okay, what are we prioritizing here? And, sometimes there are trade-offs to that. And so anybody listening, you don't always have it all together all the time. And when you do choose to work 10 hours, which is a choice, I could put my youngest into daycare and have a bit of extra time. But at the moment, I don't want to do that. When you make that kind of choice, the trade-off is, okay, that means that, not everything can be done right now. And, there are plenty of things that are on my wish list of, oh, I'd love to do that one day. I'm going to park that idea because it's just not the right season for me. And so that's a really good example of, this year we created a new program and then, it's like, okay, well, what does these other parts of the business look like? What are we going to do moving forward from here? And so that's the next phase for us.
Hello, amazing, wonderful people. I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. And if you are, could you please share this with someone who you really, truly think needs it or would enjoy listening to these type of podcast episodes? It would really mean the world to us. Our team works so hard on these episodes, and we really try to provide the most value we possibly can for our listeners. So a few ways that you can share is take a screenshot of this episode and share it into Instagram. We would love to tag you in our stories. And a few other ways is sharing exactly what you loved about this episode and what truly made an impact in your life. And one last thing, if you are enjoying this podcast episode, if you could leave a review for us, that would be everything. It really does help our podcast, and it also helps other beautiful, wonderful people find our podcast as well. So thank you so much, and let's get back to the show. Awesome. And then as far as doing, well, actually, I would love to kind of hear your step-by-step. So when you guys decide to do a launch, what I'm getting from is that you usually run a masterclass, depending on the launch, right?
Yeah.
So you run a masterclass. And then from that masterclass, you typically send emails and then you do stories on Instagram. And then because you're doing it for 6 weeks, right? Like 5 to 6 weeks now.
Yeah.
And so is it every day? Are you selling every day, or what is what does that look like?
So on stories, I'll be on stories every day and generally mentioning something related to the launch in some way. And so sometimes that's very much like here's the thing, and I'll share it. Other times it's like I'm having these conversations with people in the back end and this is what we're talking about and that kind of thing. A big part of my strategy as well is doing personal outreach. So, following on from the masterclass, anybody who attended that masterclass, I'm jumping into their DMs and saying, hey, it was so great to see you there. Obviously I'm selling this thing and we're launching this thing at the moment. Is it something you're considering? Did you want to have a chat? And at the moment, I'm also doing free strategy calls. So rather than free discovery calls or free sales calls or anything like that, I'm doing strategy calls. So we're jumping on for a 30-minute coaching session, essentially. And I'm getting the opportunity to really dive into, okay, where are you at right now? What does that next step look like for you? Helping them with that. And then they get that opportunity to be like, oh no, Bec knows her stuff, or that really resonates with me, or whatever. And that opportunity to really get a feel for what my coaching is like. And then we can take the next step from there if they want to. And that's been really fun. I really enjoy that. And it's also been a really great strategy in terms of, getting people in, because I'm also at the moment selling, at the time of this recording anyway, selling into the next round of my mastermind. That's a high cost, premium offer. People aren't just, spending $200 here or, it's an offer where people are really considering what that looks like for them as an investment. And so they want to be confident in that. I want them to be confident in that. And so it's very much a high touch sales process, as opposed to if I was launching a lower cost offer, I wouldn't be jumping on calls with people. I'd be doing a lot more on that front end to promote it. So hopefully that's answered your question. I am on stories every day, but it's not necessarily doing the hard sell, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I love that. I love that you said it's fun. it's fun. DMs, selling in your DMs doesn't always have to be shitty, because I think when you go into the coaching industry, it's like the freaking black plague. Like, you should not touch it and you shouldn't do it, especially for spiritual women entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
anyone energetically aligned. It's like the devil. So I love that you have found a way to make it fun, not make it feel sleazy, and not make it feel like icky. And you're like, you literally said, this is fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you make selling in the DMs fun during launches, Bec?
So,
because people are dying to know.
yes. So I think the biggest thing is having a relationship with somebody and treating somebody like a real human, you know? Like, I think we've all received those cold DMs that aren't like that at all. And actually, I received a cold DM the other day from somebody I don't know, and it was a voice note. And it was a guy, and he used my name, and he was a really short voice note that was like this invitation to get back to him. I didn't, but you know, I actually went, actually, that's not a bad cold DM. Like, I don't mind that, as opposed to, you know, some of the others you get, right? So there is actually a way you can do cold outreach in kind of a nice, you know, soulful way. But that's not necessarily what I do. So what I do is I reach out to people who have engaged in some way. And so, you know, the conversation will be, even if I don't know them super well just yet, like, hey, I saw that you've been clicking through all my emails, and I know you've had a look at the Spiritual Business Mistress Mind. You know, is this something you're considering? Let me know. I'd love to have a chat. Not everyone gets back to you, right? Like, some people will just be like, nah. But other people will be like, oh, wow. Hey, Bec, you're in my DMs. This is exciting.
Totally. They idolize you, like, you know, not idolize, but you know, they respect you. That's why they're in your email list and following you. So it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I love
Or, you know,
that.
the only time they hear my voice is when I'm like recording a story or like, you know, recording a podcast, you know? And so now it's just me like being like, hey, how you going? So I'll often send audio notes as well as text, depending on whether I've got a sleeping baby with me. And it'll just be an invitation. Like, is this something you're considering? I think people really struggle with the idea of asking the question, because I want to give that person an opportunity to be like, oh, I was just having a look, you know, and that's fine, you know, but I want to ask them the question, because if they want to have a conversation about it, sometimes actually initiating that conversation can be like a barrier, you know? And so for me to just say, hey, I'm here. If you want to have a conversation, let me know. And for me at the moment, I've always got something to offer them too. You know, it's like, okay, well, if you want to have, you know, if you are considering this, you know, have you thought about jumping on one of my free strategy calls? I've got 2 available this week, you know? And so there's that opportunity to, like, you know, take the next step without it being a huge commitment from them as well, and giving them that opportunity to go, okay, maybe I will do that, or not. And that's totally fine too. I think it's really the intention you go in with. And if the intention is, hey, I've seen you're looking at this, did you want to have a chat about it or not? You know, like, you're literally just asking the question. I always think of social media as this thing where, like, somebody's followed you. And so if you think about your like account on social media, like your Instagram account, and somebody follows you, it's like they've walked into a party, and they've walked into your party. And if someone walked into an actual party at your house, you would go up to them and be like, hey, welcome. So great to have you here. Let's have a great time at this party. This is where you find the food and the drink, you know? But people will ignore the person walking in the door when they get a new social media follower. And it's like, why don't you go welcome them? It's not like, you know, they've come and said, yes, I want to follow you. And if they don't want to interact with you, that's also fine. And they can kind of lurk in the background. But you've at least walked in and, you know, walked over to them and said, hey, welcome. This is a great party, and I'd love to have you here, and I'm excited you're here. I just think of it like that. And if you think of it like that, it becomes so much easier. Because then it's like, well, if you're ignoring that person, that's actually really rude.
I love that freaking analogy. That is so, I have never, ever thought about it that way or heard anyone describe it that way. And you're right. It makes it so much easier that like they've entered your domain, and you're not being weird by talking to them, because they literally chose to follow you.
Yeah.
Or to come to your party, as Bec would say.
They're coming to my party, and I want to say hi, you know, welcome. And if that's not,
it's a rad badass party.
Yeah. And if that's not something that they want, like if they just want to follow me and lurk in the background, they find it weird that I would reach out to them, like they're probably not my people anyway, right? So I always take that.
They shouldn't have came to the party, man.
You're either in or you're out.
They should not have came to the don't come to my party if you're not going to say what's up. Or if you're not going to be cool about it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know,
I love that.
And when I think of like, okay, like if you think of that analogy and it's like, okay, this is where you find the drinks and the food, I'll often say to people, like I will usually, you know, I don't always have the time, but if somebody follows me, I'll send them a quick note and I've got this moment and I'm like, hey, so great you're here. Like looking forward to getting to know you. Let me know if there's anything you're struggling with in business at the moment, because I've got a podcast and I can link you to some episodes if they're relevant. So that's the equivalent of saying that's where you find the food and the drink, you know, like this is how you can eat my content, consume my content.
Yeah, my cookie content. I love it. The punch.
Yes.
The magic punch for your business. I love it. That is. So do you do that to every person that chooses to follow you? Do you say like basically hello?
I try to. I don't always get there.
That's amazing.
And so it'll depend on what the week is looking like. And so if you followed me and I haven't done that, I apologize. But it's probably because I'm like cleaning toys up or doing washing or like doing something related to my children, because that's pretty much what my whole life is.
So basically everybody go follow Bec so then you can see her process and see how she welcomes you all.
Please.
You better say hello to my people.
So good.
I'm over there.
So good.
Yeah. That's great. And so with all of this, because I know it plays a huge, massive part in your business, energetic.
Yes.
Especially having a mom that you have, a psychic medium, right?
Yeah, she's a psychic medium.
Yeah. So that's amazing. That's really amazing. But also maybe growing up, it could have been a little like she knows too much about my life. But how do energetics play into all of this, into your launch strategy, and to even like DMing people? I mean, I know because you talk about intention. I know how important that is. That's been for me building my own community and making people feel like I'm not just there to take their money and I'm not just there to like something for my own good. But how does energetics play into all of this for you?
Oh, such a good question. So I do think it is so important, the energy you're showing up in, right? Like if I was to DM someone from that energy of like, I'm trying to convince them, or like, oh, I really hope that they want to chat with me, you know, like that kind of energy, like that desperate energy, that's not a good vibe, right? Like you want to be, I feel like this analogy is getting out of hand, but like you want to be the really fun host of the party, right? Like people aren't going to have a great time if you're not having a good time yourself. And so I like to bring that energy in of like, okay, and being really intentional about that. Like, how do I want to show up today? And how do I want this person to feel on the other side of receiving this? And that's if you're sending a DM, if that's if you're recording a podcast episode or creating any kind of content, it's like, how do you want people to feel when they receive this from you? You know, that's a huge part of branding and a huge part of, you know, that energy behind everything that you do. And so being really intentional around what does that look like, and therefore how can I bring that energy to it? And knowing too, and I feel like, you know, this needs to be said, there are days where I just do not have the energy to do certain things. And so in a launch, and this is why I'd like an extended, you know, launch that's got lots of space. So Thursdays and Fridays are the days where I have both of my kids with me. And those days I don't do as much of this stuff because I just don't have the capacity to do it. And so, you know, yes, there'll be moments in time when I can like jump into DMs or, you know, my biggest priority on those days is serving my clients and talking to my team and making sure everyone's got what they need, essentially. Anything else beyond that is like a bit of a bonus, and I kind of treat it like that. And so those days I just don't have the energy to show up in that way, and I give myself permission to not do that. And so if there's ever a day where you're just not feeling it, like that's okay. What I would do is prioritize the things that are going to help you get back to that energy, you know? So what's going to help you get into the energy that you need to be in? And that can sometimes be as simple as reading through past testimonials from clients, like if you're having a moment of feeling like some imposter syndrome or some comparison or like, what am I even doing anyway? It's like, that's okay. Let's go back and have a look at some evidence here around how you might have helped people in the past, or, knowing that you do know your stuff, like you know this so well, and really leaning into the self-trust of that. And so what can you do? What are those things you can do, those actions you can take that can really prioritize your energy on days where you do feel like it's just not happening for you, but also giving yourself some grace around that, because we all have days like that, right? And so in terms of how I approach things, it's, what energy do I need to be? And am I in the right energy for this today? Maybe sometimes it's not. And my priority then is to go, okay, well, what's the action here following on from that? I think so often when we have stuff come up, like mindset wobbles or anything like that, we kind of get stuck in it rather than just going, okay, I'm going to accept the fact that I feel like this right now, or I'm thinking this right now. What's the next step here? Is it that I'm just going to go, okay, I'm going to allow myself to feel like crap for 5 minutes and then go and do something fun that's totally unrelated to anything business and feel better about everything? But making that intentional decision, right? I think the thing we do is we try and push through, or we just don't make a decision about it. And then we kind of get stuck in this space of like, I feel guilty that I haven't done the thing that I was meant to do, or that I feel this way. And like, we kind of just float around in this like unhappy soup, and we want to get out of that soup, and we want to make a decision that's going to really support us. And I think the decision is the key, and you can actually decide, I'm not doing that right now. And that can be the decision. And that can be the most supportive thing for you in that moment.
I love it. You're so right. It's really not pushing through those emotions and fully accepting them, because when you push through those emotions, then you are literally sharing content from that space of lack of self-doubt, and people can smell it a mile away. It is insane. And it's really like, people that just don't get it sometimes don't get it. Their content reeks of it. And so it really is the most important thing a business owner can do is make sure you are energetically aligned with the greatest version of yourself that you can be in that day. Of course, like today is a totally different version of myself than I was yesterday and tomorrow and next week and a month from now and like 2 years ago. But the best version I can be in this moment, and really commit to aligning to that. And then it sounds like from what you're talking about, being self-reflective. When you notice, because a lot of times we'll be in that launch, our heads are so down, we're so determined to bust out all of these tasks that we don't even know that we're not even energetically aligned, that we're running from an empty tank, or we're not running from an overflow, from a complete overflow and gratitude and joy and all of this beautiful things that is going to literally give you the business that you want and the clients that you want. Like, imagine the type of clients that are kind of going to come out of each scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
I would imagine you probably have like, yeah. And like the DMs that are going to come out of it too. Like, you are not like the cool party kid when you're messaging from that type of energy.
Yeah. And I think too, something that's really helped me is this belief that I've really lent into, particularly as someone with kids now, is this idea that you can hold things at the same time. Like, I can hold things in life being a bit chaotic, and I can hold my clients, and I know that when I'm showing up for them, even if I've had, a particularly bad night with the kids, or, like a day where I'm like, oh, that was just, wild, I can still show up to a call, or I can show up to, a message with them to support them, and I will be there for them. Like, and I can hold all my own stuff, and I can hold the support and serve my clients at a really high level. And that belief that you can hold multiple things, this duality, is so, so powerful. So also knowing that if you're having, some mindset wobbles today and your energy's a little bit off, you can still hold that and know that your business can thrive at the same time. Like, it's not, I think sometimes, particularly when you get into like, the energy and manifestation and things like that, where it's like, we've got to be high vibe all the time in order to attract those things that are high vibe. it's just not possible for people to be in that energy all the time. And then if we try and do that, we're often ignoring things that are going on in our life. And so it's almost like, well, how can we actually maintain that high vibration while still going through stuff that we go through as humans, and know that it's not like one or the other, it's actually both. And as a mom in business, being able to like hold both, like I can be a really great mom and I can have a really successful business, like being able to hold both of that, like that's powerful. And there will be days where you'll probably feel stretched, and that's fine, but you can hold it, and you can still you can do hard things. You can do hard things all the time.
I love that quote. What is it, Glennon Doyle? We can do hard things. I love that. What's some advice that you can tell somebody that is trying to hold both things at the same time? Because like, I like when you're talking about being a mom, like I'm about to be a mom for the first time, so I'm sure I'm gonna have some really very sleep deprived days, and I'm trying to hold this incredible energy for my people. And so how could someone do that?
I think it's this idea of being able to just expand your capacity, and actually being able to kind of compartmentalize stuff sometimes too, like I'm going to put that to the side for now and I'll deal with that soon, but I can't deal with that right now. I'm going to go over here and do the thing I need to do, show up for the people I need to show up for. And then I'm going to, deal with whatever's going on emotionally, whatever over here. So being able to compartmentalize is actually really, really helpful in this case. And then also being able to expand your capacity. What's really interesting as a parent is, you love your kids so much, right? Like you love them so much. And at the same time, you can really, really find them very annoying.
So I've heard.
and you think about like any other relationship you have with people in your life, there will be times when perhaps, if you've got a partner that they're really annoying you, but you love them so much, but they're really annoying you, right? Like both of those things can be true. And sometimes I like to remind myself of that if I feel like, because the narrative is like, if you get annoyed with your kids, then you don't love them. Well, of course that's not true, And so it's like, what is the story that you're telling yourself about these things that you can hold, So if it's like, oh, my life's a little bit chaotic today and I've been running from one thing to the other and there's toys everywhere and there's dishes in the sink and there's washing to be done and blah, blah, blah. How am I going to show up for my clients? It's like, but all of that can be true and you can still show up for them, And so it's the story that we have around what that looks like. And I think something for women in particular is, we've been conditioned to kind of have it all together all the time. And like that if we don't have it all together all the time, then and we've dropped one ball, that like we've failed everything. And it's just not a story that I think serves us. It's okay to drop the ball in one arena, that doesn't really matter anyway. Like the dishes will get done next week or tomorrow or tonight. And no one, it's not going to hurt anyone, whereas the things that are more important are playing with your kids, or the things that are more important is actually responding to that client today, so what does that look like? And knowing that nothing is urgent, like nothing is, especially in business, like it's not urgent, you don't need to have this rushy energy, and you don't need to be available all the time, So the way that I work with my clients is, yes, we can message each other, but they know that I'll get back to them within 12 to 24 hours. And so they know that, and so if they don't hear back from me, it's not because I'm ignoring them. It's because I'm literally just going to get back to them in a little bit of time. And if you set those expectations from the beginning, and you communicate all of that, then that's perfect. It's if you set expectations that are unrealistic for yourself, then other people start to expect that of you as well. And so it's almost like, how can you got to start with self first. What are those expectations? What are those boundaries that you're putting in place? How are you communicating that? And also, especially when it comes to kids, like what support have you got, and how can you implement that support, and how can you ask for help? Asking for help is so powerful. And, and there are going to be times when maybe you can't hold it all and you need to just take a pause and go, okay, I need to take a break here. And that's okay too. So it's not, there's never one way to do anything, and there's never a hard and fast rule around this stuff. It's all about making it work for you.
I feel like we could just literally take that snippet and like as a short form video, and then just whatever anyone is feeling like just overwhelmed, they have to carry it all the time. Just listen to that over and over and over, because it's such a beautiful invitation, or just allowing women, especially women, to just, it's okay. No one's going to die, most likely. You're probably not in a situation that anyone's going to die. And also, I learned that the hard way about setting boundaries with clients and just within your business, with your employees, setting those early, setting those very, very early. And I make mine a little bit more strict than the other way, just because like you said, you can't set expectations and then go back on your expectations, because it really makes it leaves it just like a not good. People start expecting you replying every 2 to 3 hours instead of 12. When it changes that way, it's like, ugh. So I love that you just brought all of that up. So incredible, amazing. And so that was it's such an amazing part of ending this beautiful conversation. But a couple last questions. What are 3 books that you would recommend to the audience?
Okay. What are 3 books I would recommend? Okay. So I would recommend, I'm going to go a little bit left field here and say The Alchemist by Paul Coelho. So that's very much a personal development book. The first kind of personal development book I ever read, and I really, really love it. So I would highly recommend that one. I would recommend, and the reason I'm finding this so difficult is I'm actually not reading like business books at the moment. I'm reading really trashy romance novels. So maybe I could just
give it to us.
Maybe I could just give you full permission to read any kind of fiction you want to read, because that's also,
100%.
Yes, that's going to help you. And I read that because it's just so easy and does not assault my senses in any way. It just, you always know that the protagonists are going to fall in love and it's going to be a happy ending, which is always nice.
So what's your favorite trashy romance novel?
That's a good question. I got into them.
If you guys could see her face, it's lovely.
Just because it's, it's one of those things that once upon a time I probably would have been incredibly embarrassed about. So I got into Regency romance via Bridgerton. And so if you're into Bridgerton and you like reading, fiction, I would highly recommend the Bridgerton books, because they were pretty fabulous books to read. And then I kind of went down this rabbit hole of other authors. And so I read, because they're so easy to read, I read 3 books a week. So I also really like the author. I also really like the author Darcy Burke. So anybody who is into Regency romance, Darcy Burke is really excellent. Okay. Other books that I would recommend. So I really, something that's really helped me is working on my money mindset. And so another kind of series of books I would recommend is anything by Denise Duffield Thomas. So she's an Australian money mindset coach. She's got 3 books, I believe. And I think the one that I really liked the most was Get Rich, Lucky Bitch. So recommend. She's also got one called Lucky Bitch, which is all about manifestation, but the money one is the Get Rich one. So I would highly recommend that, or at least any kind of, there's lots of money mindset books out there. So money mindset is something I would recommend people kind of invest their time in working on. I don't know if I've got a third one for you. Is that enough?
Yeah, I think that's 3. I actually just downloaded Get Rich Lucky Bitch by Denise for Audible, so I'm excited. I love that. And wow, that might be my favorite list of books.
It's very eclectic.
Ever given me. So that there's such. Yeah, it was like the alchemist mindset, like that, like purpose type of book, and then sassy, like lovely romance. I
I
love it. I
am
mean,
I
money
am very
mindset.
multifaceted.
Why not? I love it. As you should be, as honestly the
Yeah.
99.9% of my audience is, and me as well. So I think every single
Yeah.
person is like
I'm waiting
loving
for
this
people to
right
DM
now.
me about Regency romance. So come and talk to me about it.
Yes. Yes, you guys. Yeah, go find her on Instagram, and then exactly like that. What like a beautiful way to start a
Yes. Yeah.
relationship and a conversation with
Yeah,
somebody,
yeah. I
especially
love it.
business, right?
So
I
good.
love it. And then, what is one thing that is there anything else that you'd like to say, or a question that I didn't ask that you'd like to cover, or any last words?
Any last words? Look, I think, in light of all that we've talked about, I think the biggest thing I would say to anyone who is, in business, launching, maybe going through a bit of a transformation if you're about to have a baby, or, like you're, transitioning your business and overhauling it in any way, pivoting, that kind of thing, is just to really lean into the permission to just do what works for you and be okay to find that out, to like try something and change it if you need to, and set those boundaries, communicate those boundaries, just a really full permission to just go, this needs to work for me. I think sometimes the thing that we forget is, we'll go, okay, I need to create an online program, or I want to create an online program. How am I going to set this up? How am I going to set this up for my clients? What it's going to look like for them, etc. And we forget to go, okay, but how's this going to work for me? Like, yeah, I'd really love to include 2 calls per week for that thing, but actually it just doesn't work for me to do that. And so it's like, what season of life are you in? How do you have to design things to support that? And just really also anchor into that. I always like to think of it as, this meeting of the things that are going to work best for your clients and help them to get the transformation that they want and the transformation you want to help them get, as well as what works for you, because that's going to be how you show up best for your people and help them and have that impact you want to have by doing it in a way that is sustainable and supportive for you as well.
That was so like such a beautiful overview and synopsis of everything we just talked about, but like in a nutshell. So thank you. So amazing for those wonderful last words. And you guys go follow her, get in her DMs, or she'll get in your DMs actually. And we'll leave all of her links down below, but it sounds like Instagram and maybe an email list is the best way to find you.
Yeah.
And podcast as well.
Yeah. Instagram, podcast, come hang.
Yes. And she'll have a resource down below as well to get into the email list, the newsletter. So
yeah. Come and hang out.
Strategy.
I don't know which one we're giving you, but I've got some incredible freebies.
Yeah, you can send it over to my team later.
Yeah. We've got some good ones.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Bec. This was so much fun. Oh my gosh, my cheeks are sore. So thank you so much. That was really, really fun. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited for you to have your baby. I can't wait to hear that news and to celebrate that for you. So exciting.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think by the time this is launched, I will already be having it. So it's gonna be here.
It's here.
Like this is the past episode, you guys. Weird how that works.
This is in the past.
Thank you so much, Bec.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Have a good one, you guys.
And with that, we come to the close of yet another epic journey of the Aligned Empire podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the frequency of your limitless potential. Each episode is a code to unlock your unique energetic frequencies of money, business, and your aligned empire. If you feel this episode would resonate with others, please share it forward, creating a ripple effect throughout the universe. Make sure to subscribe to continue this journey of transformation with us. Join us again next week as we continue to rise together, joining a movement that is changing the world. This is Drea Brown, your guide on this journey, signing off.